Consciousness is our ability to expand our awareness beyond our own beliefs.
Mm,
Consciousness is the mind and thought processes that we put through to move within life. It's a very complicated, sophisticated system to move within time and space. And even the subconscious aspects of our consciousness are still considered consciousness. To me, it's a very complicated, sophisticated system, but also a system where every single bit of it complements every other aspect and contributes to the whole picture.
Have you ever wondered how spirituality, childhood experiences, and travel all impact the future that you would love to have? Or the way you've been living in the world and you're curious about meditation and healing, but you're not so sure because it wasn't part of your upbringing or your awareness? Well, if you have any questions like that and you're even just interested in any of it, like travel, then today's episode is for you. Our guest today is Stefan Gomez. He is a certified practitioner in reconnective healing, personal reconnection, quantum healing hypnosis technique, as well as the Yoga Alliance certified teacher. His journey into the healing arts was sparked by a deep love for travel and a long life curiosity about consciousness and energy. Over the years, Stefan has created and led transformational offerings, including Heal with Steph and the Quantum Journey Studio, which now have evolved into a more integrated and soul-aligned path. Steph helps others reconnect with their essence and navigate their own awakening journeys. Stefan, welcome to the show.
Hi, Catherine. It's great to be here.
Oh, it's great to have you here. I'm really excited for this conversation today because we've met before in the past and we'll let that unfold. But I would love to just dive right in and start off by asking you what sparked your interest in spirituality and healing and what shaped that? Maybe you can start at the beginning and share what's on your heart.
Absolutely. I would love to. This is my life story, I guess, in a way. I was raised by my mom, who turns out to be very spiritual. And so, ever since I remember myself, my upbringing, she made it to where she opened up my vision for a greater world than what we actually see. And part of that is that she's been telling me since I was very young, that me and my brother, that the universe has these laws that we need to just follow and abide by. And we are in constant communication with the universe. And that if we want to achieve something, we need to wish for it, we need to dream for it. And those became like echoes in the back of my mind. And growing up with all this mindset, I knew that whatever choices I make, I would have to consider any consequences of them, and or consider the greater picture, not just for the present moment, but how will that unfold in time for me and for others around me. And so it's been very interesting to see life from this perspective from a young age and as an adult. And I really had this desire since I remember myself to just travel the world. That was like one of my biggest dreams. And I realized as I was getting older, I was presented this opportunity to travel continents, countries, cultures, exploring mindsets and different approaches to life, if you wish. I do realize that after each trip, I would take some essence of the places I visited, the people I interacted with, their own vision on life as well. And I would take that with me, and it would help me grow and be a better person. And all of that, I realized it just recharges my soul to keep going and keep searching and keep moving through space and just being my authentic self.
That's awesome. I love that. And I really love your story. It's so different than other stories I've heard about. A lot of people come from a lot of pain and trauma, and nothing wrong with that. I wish I'd learned this stuff earlier to share with my kids when they were younger. What a gift your mother was to you and to the world.
Thank you.
So beautiful. You're welcome. I love that you traveled. I'm going to jump cut for a minute. I remember when I came to your studio or your office to have a session with you, and you had this beautiful map of the world on the wall with all these pins in it. And I'm like, did you go to all those places? You're like, yeah. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to travel. I might not get to that many. You're like, don't say that. Don't put that in the world. You might. So I love that you walk your talk and you travel, and that you actually learn from your travels and bring that into enhance your life. That's really powerful. And I think it's amazing. So thank you for sharing all that. Before we jump into the personal reconnection, some other healing, is there one key thing about travel that's touched your life or enhanced your work that you'd like to share?
In fact, upon reflection of all my travels throughout the years, I feel like we get entangled with our own problems and day-to-day life, and whatever is happening in our lives is more or less engaging in many different aspects and ways. And so we get caught up often with our own personal space that we forget about the bigger picture. And
Mm.
so I was in Cambodia, and we had hired a rickshaw driver to take us around town, and we went to see Angkor Wat, which is a massive religious complex. I think it's one of the biggest in the world, and we were just eager to see it and experience that culture and history of it in person. So we hired him, and he was sharing his life story with us, and it was so touching that it made me realize that no matter how good or bad you have it as an individual in your life,
Mm.
there's always someone else out there who may or may not have it just as good or just as bad as you, or even worse. So I feel like I don't want to diminish anyone's problems or make them smaller than they are. Everybody is different. I feel like when we bring our awareness outside of the problems to a different level, we're able to see a little bit of a bigger picture, interconnectedness with different situations and people, and we can elevate the experience and perhaps even make it from a negative and put it into a positive and shift that experience and make it moving, make it start changing. I think it's that what I'm trying to say is that I've learned from that experience that it's all about perception. It's all about how, and he was happy about his life. To me, it sounded awful, but he was actually grateful for the things he has. And it made me realize that perception is key.
Mhm.
And it's what we bring our awareness to and therefore consciousness into.
Yeah, I appreciate that story a lot. I haven't been to Cambodia yet, but I saw some artifacts from it in the Asian Art Museum in San Francisco recently. It is about perception, right? And that paradigm shift. I used to call myself a paradigm shifter, but I had to go out there and shift my own perspective more and more. I love what you shared about not dismissing someone else's pain, or what they've been through. They don't necessarily have something to compare it to. And we still get to honor and work through our own pain or grief. But you're right, people have it better, people have it worse. When I was in Harper's Ferry a few months ago, I think it was after I left your studio, I was talking to a woman who co-owned a shop, and we were just chatting. And I was eyeing these rose colored bobby pins. They're just so beautiful. And people laugh, oh, they're a little girlish. But I bought a handful of them. Her son was 15-year-old and made them and sold them for $4 or $5. And she was a single mom. And she said that going to McDonald's was a big splurge. And her 15-year-old would ask her, and she would take him there. and let him get whatever. And she'd go home and make like a box of macaroni and cheese or rice. And I was like, oh, wow. Like you just don't know what people have or don't have and what their struggles are. And she was really grateful and really happy, just like your friend. And I just think of my kids who complain at me, and there's been bumpy times, but I'm like, they have no idea. And it's not just the energy work, which is so powerful and helpful, but that travel and being willing to just talk and listen to someone from another place, it's powerful. So I,
Exactly.
and you've been to so many places, so that's really cool. I love how it's shaped your perspective. You mentioned consciousness towards the end of that. What's your definition of consciousness, Steph?
Wow, there are so many definitions. Honestly, I feel consciousness is your entire being with all of its energy, frequency, vibration, all of its nuances in all of its aspects put together and functioning as one sort of entity. I guess this is the closest I can put it. Consciousness is our ability to expand our awareness beyond our own beliefs.
Mm,
Consciousness is the mind and thought processes that we put through to move within life, to move within time and space. And even the subconscious aspects of our consciousness are still considered consciousness. To me, it's a very complicated, sophisticated system, but also a system where every single bit of it complements every other aspect and contributes to the whole, to the picture.
I love that. That's beautiful. I like to ask all my guests that question if I remember, just because everyone has a different perception or viewpoint of it. So thank you for sharing that. It's lovely. I want to talk a little bit about your work and actually how that impacts or maybe interfaces with consciousness. You do a few different things that we read in your bio, and we're going to have you back in the future to talk about one of them. But I really would love to focus on reconnective healing and the personal reconnection. Maybe we could start with what that is and how it's different from other forms of energy work, and maybe what even drew you to that.
I'm going to start with probably the aspect of what drew me into that, and then I'll go into what reconnective healing is. In 2020, in the middle of the pandemic, I, just as many other people, were stationed at home. Like there was no way out. Like we just had to stay home. And I knew for the longest time of my life that I had been postponing some work and procrastinating actually on doing spiritual work. I knew that was a path of my life that I had to follow, but because of my priorities at the time when I was a little younger, I never put it number one priority. So it always lingered in the back of my head. And 2020, when I had nothing else to do, I realized this is the time where I have to focus on my spiritual teachings and understandings and practices and start following that path more seriously. And I was attending a course, online course, with my now spiritual mentor from Bulgaria. And as we were discussing topics about energy work and energy healing, she had mentioned Dr. Eric Pearl's book, which is right here. It is called The Reconnection, Heal Others, Heal Yourself. And she only briefly mentioned that book with a few quotes from the book. And she said, if you guys are interested, feel free to look up the book, buy it, and read it. It's a great read, and it will help you understand what Dr. Eric Pearl has gone through, and you may even be able to do it yourself. And so maybe nothing else stuck out of the entire 1 hour course that day, but this book. And so I immediately researched it. I bought it on Amazon. I bought a used copy from like 2001 and it arrived. And honestly, as I was reading it, my entire body was responding to the words. My third eye was literally like someone was taking a hammer on the inside of my forehead and was just like trying to poke a hole in my forehead.
Oh,
And my heart center, I felt it opened up, and both my heart chakra and my third eye were pulsating in synchronicity as I was reading the book. And I had no idea what's happening. I'm like, why is my body doing this? What is happening? And at that moment, I knew that I needed to learn how to do this.
okay.
Throughout my life, on multiple occasions, random people would come up to me and just blurb to me that I have healing hands out of
Yes.
nowhere. Whether they were Reiki practitioners, whether they were just a regular people, they wouldn't have that knowledge, but they would transmit the same message to me. You have healing hands, you have healing hands. I'm like, okay, let's see what happens. So little that I know, within 3 months from finishing the book,
Mhm.
Dr. Eric Pearl had a training in New York City because I live in New Jersey. And I signed up. I was like, I cannot miss this opportunity.
That's awesome.
So I attended the weekend training in New York City. It was amazing. But so to the second point of your question, what is reconnective healing? Reconnective healing is an established non-touch healing approach without any complicated steps or equipment or procedures or even rituals, if you wish. It is scientifically supported and known to facilitate significant advancement in all areas of daily life, such as like physical well-being, mental clarity, inner emotional peace, and even spiritual life growth. So in short, reconnective healing is a new approach to well-being, if you wish.
Okay. I love that. And I love your relationship with Dr. Eric Pearl's book and the how you came to the training after. You actually let me borrow a copy of your book and I like read it in a day and a half. It was great. So I thank you. It is powerful work. And I think it's sometimes challenging, like any form of energy work, for people that are not familiar to maybe embrace it or have that mindset or perspective shift around it. But it's powerful. And it sounds like the way you describe it, it just called to you. People ask me, how do I know which training to do or which practitioner to work with? I'm like, just listen to that inner call. Let's go. Come on. So that's great. What, in your experience, after not just becoming a practitioner, but having some reconnective healing sessions done, and then there's also the personal reconnection, and maybe you can tell us the difference between that. How has it helped shape your life, like after you found this modality?
It has definitely propelled me forward. It has accelerated my path to spirituality, and it probably, if we want to look at it at a linear perspective, it shortened the distance from where I was probably supposed to be years and years from the moment when I discovered it
Okay.
to where it actually took about a year. It just condensed time. And to this day, I'm mind blown by what happened to me.
Oh, what happened?
So, personal reconnection, because those are two slightly different things,
Okay.
right? So, reconnective healing is the intention of it is healing, right? We talk about the reconnective healing frequencies. We talk about the energy exchange and how people can heal themselves through the facilitator. So, in a lot of the modalities out there, and I don't mean in any way that they're bad or they're good, they are different approaches to healing. So, if someone connects better with Reiki, that's amazing. If someone connects better with mantras and other types of energy healing, that's great. That's what they're called towards. And there's no right or wrong path to it. There's many different paths. But reconnective healing's intention is healing, whereas the personal reconnection is a different intention behind it. The personal reconnection is rather structured and precise application. of the reconnective healing frequencies, which is not only bringing us back into balance and optimal health, but tends to accelerate our personal evolution, helping us realize or manifest our intended life path and purpose. And while the reconnective healing is free of any specific modalities or movements or rituals, the personal reconnection brings all that into specific points and alignments within the body, very similar to the Chinese science of acupuncture,
Mhm.
where during a personal reconnection session, we tend to align the energy body of our being with the energy body of the earth and the energy structure of the stars above us, like the universe itself. So all these three complementary systems are aligned together, which then propels the person into their own evolutionary path, into what they're meant to do on
Mhm.
this earth. Some people report a very quick turnaround. Their life changes very quickly. Some report a year to 2 years to 3 years. It's really unique to everybody. That being said, my my personal reconnection, when I did it in 2021, it took 3 months for my paradigm to shift.
Okay.
And during my personal reconnection, because I have experienced the reconnective healing sessions prior, so those were unique on their own way. But the personal reconnection, I did it in New York City with a facilitator that he was part of the teaching course in the reconnective healing in New York a couple months prior. I went there and the entire experience was just unique to a point where day two, because it's a 2 day session, the second day, I remember towards the end of the session, the entire world just came into a singular point of awareness for me. I
Mhm.
felt I lost hearing, I lost sense of space and time. It all collapsed into one singular point for just a split second. Then it was like a big bang again.
Oh,
And I remember that so vividly, and it was so mind-boggling at the time that it happened, and I witnessed it, that to this day, I'm like, oh my God, every single experience, even through the people that I have facilitated personal reconnection to, they all share their own unique experiences.
yeah,
And I just love to hear what their feedback is after each session.
that's awesome.
Dying to hear it. Yeah, after I did my personal reconnection, the the energy field shifted really quickly for me. I did it in October around this time, and by December, I had already completed my course and tests for the quantum healing hypnosis technique. In January, I started facilitating past life regressions, which is something we're going to talk later on.
Can't wait for that.
But everything shifted. Everything just spiraled up so quickly that I was speechless.
I really love that. And I know there's probably people listening that are still skeptical or don't understand. And that's okay. I've been there too, because a really good friend of mine and my colleague, one of the modalities she works with is the personal reconnection and reconnective healing. She lives on the other coast. And I had just reconnective healing done with her, but I never felt the call for the personal reconnection. And when I started to, I wanted to do it with someone neutral, and the synchronicities that just led me to you are really cool as well. But for people listening, is it okay if I clarify that and correct me if I misspeak? Reconnective healing can be done in person or virtual, but the personal reconnection is only in person. Is that
Correct.
accurate? Okay.
That is correct. Yeah.
So that's cool. So that was one reason I'm like, I got to find somebody on the East Coast. I'm not ready to go to California yet, but then I did. That may have put me on my path. I have found it to be really powerful. And as someone who's been aware of and interested in synchronicity for a long time and have noticed them in my life after I had the session with you. And probably 2 or 3 months after, they really started kicking up like
Okay.
unbelievably fast. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And to some people, might not be big things. It's not, whoa, millions of dollars fell in my lap. I know everybody, when we talk about this work or manifestation, thinks it's all about just, oh, I'm going to get all the money. It's so much bigger and more vast than that, right? And that how it can even, for me, open your heart even more as it sets you on your path has been powerful. It's been amazing. And one of the things I didn't have on the table as such a profound experience as you, but I remember being on the table and like the wind just kicked up at one point incredibly, and the elements. And I feel really connected to the elements. And when you shared earlier about healing hands, I'm like, oh my God, his 11th chakra is just amazing. How incredible that this must have blown that out of the water for you. And it can be so subtle. And what I noticed and what I have noticed on the journey is that sometimes I feel the presence of another being. And in the last year, I've spent a lot of time alone on the road. And the last house I went to in California, first time I laid down in bed, it happened again. I felt someone sit next to me, but there was no one there. And I'm not afraid anymore. My friend who does some of the work that you do, that's the personal reconnection. Those are your guides. They are there. They've tapped me on the shoulder, and I've learned that I'm not crazy. They are connecting and communicating, but it has upped its game since our work together last spring. So I just thought
I love that.
yeah.
This is beautiful. Thank you for sharing. I'm always curious to see what my clients have experienced and continue to experience after their session. So thank you for bringing that up. I love that.
Welcome. I think it's really my biggest takeaway. It's enhanced my relationship with the unseen in powerful ways. Like that's been going on for years in different ways, not all healing, fun modalities, darker ways too. But yeah, it's been very impactful and I appreciate it. And so if anybody is in driving distance to New Jersey, hit Steph up because it's really worth it. Before we move from that, is there anything else you'd like to share about reconnective healing or the personal reconnection, on how it can help people, or anything in your experience that comes to mind?
Yeah, so a lot of people, and I guess this is just the way that our society is programmed. I don't want to target anyone in particular, but a lot of us have the mindset that we have certain symptoms or we have certain concerns, whether that's health or something more mentally or emotionally, whatever the case is. And we have this predisposition to try to get rid of those symptoms, and that's normal. When it comes to reconnective healing and personal reconnection, what we ask as facilitators is to let go of any expectation towards the session.
Okay.
Whether you do it remote for a healing or in person, we don't know what we don't know, right? And so there, our higher self, spiritual guides, whatever you want to call them, the beings watching over us and constantly guiding us, know well ahead of time and much better than we do with our earthly mind what's best for us and what is our journey going to be or has to be in this life. And when you approach reconnective healing with a free mind,
Mhm.
a free of expectations, and allow for the energy to manifest itself into whatever shape or form it has to for you, then you get the biggest benefits out of it. For example, my first session I did ever was with Dr. Eric Pearl before I went into his training because I just wanted to experience that firsthand from the source that discovered all of this.
That's awesome.
And we did a remote session. He lives in California, and I lay down no expectations whatsoever. It was a profound, very physical experience. I felt a lot of things in my body, and my body responded to the energy in many different ways. But I noticed, and that was a few days later, that my sleep pattern has changed.
Oh,
I
wow.
no longer woke up in the middle of the night, my mind wandering for hours at a time. I just slept like a baby. And I did not realize I had an issue with sleep for years until it actually manifested itself as a good night's sleep. And I was like, okay, this is what I needed, among other things, of course, but this was the one that stood out the most.
I really appreciate that because it's like what you said even before that, as the practitioner, to not have the expectation or not try to control the outcome, to let the frequencies do the work, let the energy do the work for you. And you got what you needed and you didn't even realize that's probably what you needed most. And I can tell you, as someone who was sleep deprived for 25 years, how important sleep is. I think that's lovely. And I know that there's other stories that have shaped you since then, but it's powerful and it's so subtle in some ways. And we are trained in our culture to not believe in these things, in the unseen and the subtle energy, that it's not real, it's not scientifically proven. But when you hear story after story from someone whose life has been touched or altered in the best way, how much different are you just because you sleep better, right? How much more
Exactly.
powerful are you? That's huge.
Exactly. No, I love that. And I feel that I try to relay the message to all my clients before we get into a session. I always remind them, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to call for angels or anyone else in this session. Don't light up candles. Just lay down. You don't have to try to control your body even, because that happened to my mom when I was doing a reconnective healing session to her. She was trying to stay awake. I was like, no, just let it go. If you fall asleep, that's the best way for you to experience this. You might receive messages and transmit information while you're asleep. So don't try to fight it. Whatever it is, let it happen. Let it manifest itself. And
Mm.
then see the results afterwards.
That's beautiful. I appreciate that. As you're talking about your mom on the table, I'm remembering like the other hands on my head as you were doing the work. Because you also say, and you said, this is a no touch modality, but I could feel someone else, something else lightly on my head. And just don't be spooked by that. Trust it.
Yeah.
In all cases, when you set up that container, a benevolent guide or spirit there to support you or help the facilitator, even.
Yeah, a lot of people have reported physical presence other than myself. Sometimes I would be, if it's a reconnective healing session, I would be in the other end of the room and feet away from the client, and they would report at the same time someone over them working on their body or working on their energy, whatever it is. Presence is a big part of reconnective healing.
I love it. And I love that you worked on your mom. Let me ask you a question. What advice would you give to someone who's just starting to explore these things like meditation or energy healing? What would you say to them?
I would say to them, your inner gut knows exactly what you need.
Mm.
I would say if you don't feel drawn towards certain modalities or certain practices, just don't do them. That means they're not for you. Always ask yourself if this is for me. And in one way or another, you will receive the answer. I don't discourage people from trying different things just so they know how it feels. But I know sometimes you are just discouraged from within your intuition to just try something. You're like, this is not for me. It's just not who I am. And that's absolutely fine. And it's beautiful because then you consciously bring that awareness into your mind and verbalize it saying, this is not for me. And it's great because, like I said in the beginning, there's not one way to healing. There's not one way to do stuff to get into your spiritual nature. There's many different ways and paths.
Yeah. I think that's something we're totally in alignment with. Back in 2020 or 2021, when I met Kristen, we had started a club called Everything is Energy. And that was one of our guiding principles. There is no one right path. And so I really do appreciate you sharing that. Let me ask you a question about your own personal truth or guidance right now. What's one thing, one truth, one insight that's guiding you on your journey today, where you're at?
I am on a mission. I
Okay.
have been on a mission.
Okay.
And my mission in this life, despite all the physicality of it and where am I located in the world or how I am approaching my mission, it is always to help others. I begin to realize, and this is rather a recent revelation for me,
Mhm.
that I have been in service to others for the majority of my life. And whether that is healing, whether that is teaching how to approach certain aspects of life, whether that is working with other beings for raising vibration on Gaia, on our planet, and among humanity, whatever the case is, it's always been a part of me and a part of my life. So I feel like this continues to be my starting point when I interact with people. And even now, as a real estate agent, I am helping people move on to their next chapter in life.
No, that's awesome. I feel like that's one of the keys as healers and energy workers. That doesn't have to be our only business or way we serve. And when you were talking about serving, it reminded me of an interview I did with Marcus Oak and years ago about servant leadership. And you can do that in so many capacities, and you do it in real estate as well. So it's not we have to go do this work as a practitioner, because quite frankly, I've never felt the call to be a reconnective or personal reconnection healer. But I love the modality, right? It's helping me do my thing. So if you're listening to this and you're inspired to test out energy work or start where you're at, just do it and see where it takes you. But it doesn't mean you have to become the healer or leave your day job to still touch people's lives. So
Exactly. That is exactly what I was going to say as well. Because your presence is your frequency and vibration is able to help others just by being there. You don't have to do anything specific to help others.
mhm.
I speak with clients sometimes and they're like, your energy helps me calm down, helps me get through this process much better. And so I don't even do anything. We just talk. It doesn't mean I have to apply all my reconnective healing knowledge or practices on them. My being, and I'm sure it's not just me, but in this case, because we're doing this interview, my being is just radiating this energy that helps the next person in whatever way they need to be helped.
I totally agree. Our pure presence is probably the most powerful thing. It's like we go learn all these modalities and everyone's arguing about which one's right, which one's wrong, which one's blah, blah, blah. And that's the simple truth. When we reconnect with ourselves, we are the medicine. And I don't mean that in an egoic way. It's just
Yeah,
because consciousness, source, light flows through us and people get what they need. This is not just a podcast. This is a transmission. I do believe the people that stay and have listened will be touched. Their heart will be touched. Something, some aha, some takeaway will happen. And we may never know what it is, and that's okay. That's part of the magic and the medicine too.
I agree.
We've been talking for a while. We're going to have to wrap. Stefan, couple quick things. Where can people find you or reach out to you if they're interested? Do you have any gifts, anything coming up that you want to share? Floor is yours.
They can, so if anyone's interested, you can visit my website, theqjstudio.com. I did close the business end of last year, but I still perform the reconnective healing sessions, the personal reconnections, the quantum healing hypnosis technique. So please reach out. The contact information is on the website. I'm just a phone call away if you want to. Email, text, whatever works best, and we'll take it from there.
Okay, awesome. And we will put all your contact information if you're watching on YouTube in the comments below. We'll put it in the show notes for the podcast that's coming out. We really appreciate your time, presence, and energy. Steph, any last words before we close?
I would say by tuning inward, you begin to explore the universe that's within you because you are the universe.
Awesome. We are the universe. I love that. And I love our listeners. Thank you, Steph, again for being here. Thank you all for your time, your energy, your presence. Like I said, stay tuned, come back. We are going to have Steph on again in the future to talk about the quantum hypnosis healing technique, which is powerful and so juicy. I can't wait to dive into that. And put some comments below if you got anything out of this. If you've experienced reconnective healing or the personal reconnection, share your story with us. We would love to know, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye for now.